The man looked haggard and was tied up, finally waiting for his rescuer. This time, the target was an actor named Lin Chu. An unexpected scandal was filmed, but at that moment, a truck came barreling towards him. Lin Chu couldn't dodge it in the car. He ended up lying in a pool of blood. Suddenly, a flashlight lit up in the dim room. Lin Chu immediately became alert. At this moment, he was tied up and couldn't speak. The person who came was his younger brother. "Brother, I finally found you. Don't be afraid, it's me." Liu yanked the rag out of his mouth. Then he hugged him tightly. "Brother, you have no idea how worried I was. I've dealt with the guards. They'll find out soon. We need to leave here quickly." Suddenly, Lin Chu accidentally stepped on a syringe on the ground and was about to slip. At the critical moment, Liu caught him. In his nervousness, Lin Chu accidentally scratched Liu's hand. In an instant, the whole person became dazed and hurried to apologize. Liu looked at him, not understanding what was happening. At this moment, he noticed the syringe on the ground. "What did they do to you?" Suddenly, they heard the director shout, "Cut. Next scene starts in 10 minutes, get ready." Then Liu let go of Lin Chu. Does this guy really not know how to be gentle with a lady? The agent saw Liu was hurt and quickly went up to check on him. Lin Chu quickly apologized, saying he got up too quickly and felt a bit dizzy, promising to be careful next time. Unfortunately, Liu ignored him. The directors were also discussing Liu's performance just now. But on second thought, being ignored is better than being targeted. After all, less trouble is better than more. So Lin Chu walked away silently. Liu noticed him from the side. In the restroom, Lin Chu quickly washed his face to wake himself up. Several days have passed, and he still couldn't adapt to this body. His head would hurt from time to time, and he would have strange dreams. At this moment, he heard the staff outside gossiping. In their eyes, he was just a pretty face with no substance. His acting skills were nowhere near as good as Li the movie emperor. It seems everyone could tell he wasn't in good shape lately. And the reason for his poor state was known only to him, because he was no longer the actor Lin Chu he used to be. He used to be Lin Chu, the top entertainment journalist who was always breaking news, generating 365 days worth of headlines every year. While he was digging up dirt on the entertainment star Lin Chu, he was accidentally hit by a truck and died. Ever since Lin Chu's debut, most of Lin Chu's KPI was contributed by him. Whenever there was a hint of news, the editor would urge him to dig more. He hadn't even had the chance to upload the photos he took before Lin Chu made the headlines. The reason was said to be because of a heavy rainstorm, which caused a car accident on the highway back to the city. When Lin Chu woke up, he found himself in Lin Chu's body. From a gossipmonger, he suddenly became the subject of gossip. And he had a financial backer too. He wondered if the photos he took before his death would be discovered. He hoped they had all burned in the car accident, otherwise, if they were exposed one day, he'd still be the one to suffer. At this moment, the phone rang. In Lin Chu's contact list, apart from his agent's number, there was only this unmarked number. He had never met Lin Chu's financial backer either. That night, he couldn't even see the person's face on camera. After thinking about it, I decided not to answer. After all, I wasn't ready yet. I heard from people in the nearby crew that because of an actor next door, we are getting a holiday. And it's a big star. The biggest star in their crew is Liu. Lin Chu felt uneasy. If Liu has such a big scandal, it's a pity that it would be so sensational if it got out. I must stay away from him. Just as he was lost in thought, Liu suddenly leaned in and called his name. Lin Chu was stunned for a moment and immediately distanced himself from him. Oh no, did I accidentally say it out loud just now? Seeing Liu raise his hand with such an overwhelming presence, Lin Chu was frightened. He quickly said he had something to do and ran off. After getting in the car, he hurriedly asked his manager to take him home. Originally planning to relax with a cartoon, he didn't expect the manager to say the boss wanted to meet him. Lin Chu broke down on the spot, thinking that this day had finally come. At this moment, Lin Chu could only pray. I hope this sponsor isn't too perverted, or I won't be able to handle it. Then I pray to the salted fish immortal for blessing. At this moment, someone walks in, but Lin Chu doesn't notice at all. Liu just quietly watches from the side. 5 minutes pass, and Lin Chu still hasn't realized he's there. Hearing Lin Chu talk about breaking up, Liu immediately looks as aggrieved as a little puppy. Earlier, Lin Chu's prayer to the salted fish immortal was also seen by Liu. Liu immediately walks up to him. Who are you talking about breaking up with? Following the sound, Lin Chu turns his head and is surprised to see it's Liu. Lin Chu was startled and even wonders if he turned his head the wrong way. Why is Liu here, in the middle of the night, alone in this big villa? Could he be Lin Chu's sponsor? At this moment, Lin Chu's mind races, thinking something is off. The person captured that day doesn't match Liu's height and build. It shouldn't be Liu, which means only one possibility remains: Lin Chu has two sponsors. Facing Liu's repeated inquiry, Lin Chu panics and quickly explains that he heard wrong. To better fool everyone, I even made up an excuse. I heard from Tony that the third male lead in the group is rumored to be breaking up, fearing it might affect the show. Obviously, Liu didn't believe his words. Why haven't you been answering my calls lately? As he spoke, he began to undo the buttons on his wrist. Watching him approach step by step, Lin Chu thought he was going to be beaten up. This overwhelming pressure. The moment I heard about your car accident, I immediately booked a flight back home, but the flight was cancelled, and I had to rebook a connecting flight. I just entered the country yesterday, and yet you still won't answer calls or meet up. I chased you to the set under the guise of filming. You see me but ignore me. Are you still mad at me? Lin Chu didn't know what to say for a moment. In his panic, he even knocked over the water glass on the table. At that moment, Liu hugged him tightly, saying, I was really worried about you, bro. Lin Chu's face turned instantly red. The Liu in front of him seemed like a wronged puppy. This sponsor is not what I thought he would be. Could it be that the outwardly cold superstar Li is like this in private? At that moment, Liu kept apologizing. You've never ignored me for so long. Can we stop this cold war? Seeing him in such a pitiful state, Lin Chu felt quite awkward. As Lin Chu, the Li superstar he knew was not like this at all. Hearing what Liu mentioned about his previous actions, Lin Chu was instantly scared. What actions? Is it the method I'm thinking of? Then I heard him say he won't make his own decisions anymore. He insists on being in the same crew with me. At this point, Lin Chu finally realized what he meant, but still felt there was a problem. Suddenly, my occupational disease kicked in again. Why would Lin Chu refuse to work with Liu in the same team? After some analysis, a conclusion was indeed reached. It's possible that Lin Chu has two sponsors because he doesn't want to expose them. At this time, Liu reminded Lin Chu, brother, you must pay attention recently. Because that person has returned to the country, Lin Chu looked confused. Who is that person? What kind of person could make someone like Liu so cautious? Even someone with Liu's status is so cautious, being called to the sponsor's house in the middle of the night. Unexpectedly, he is shyer than himself, hearing Liu say he is his kin. Lin Chu was stunned on the spot. Could it be they are related by bone? What a shocking revelation. The more he digs, the more excited he gets. If only he knew about their relationship from the beginning, there would have been no need to worry about any KP. Digging out secrets late at night almost killed him. Seeing Lin Chu like this, Liu cares if he is feeling unwell, wanting him to rest well since he just got out of the hospital, but Lin Chu is too engrossed in gobbling up the revelations to easily let it go. So he quickly grabs Liu's hand and starts showing off his newly learned acting skills. Actually, I didn't have the chance to tell you I lost my memory. I asked Tony not to tell you yet. I just didn't expect our relationship to be so complicated. You say we are kin, but if you call me brother, why is your surname Li and mine Lin? Unexpectedly, brother's words are the same as back then. It seems you've forgotten everything again. Originally, when we were kids, both were in the orphanage. Back then, the real Lin Chu had amnesia, asking questions just like Lin Chu does now. Although the two are not related by blood, Liu has already recognized him as his own brother. Previously protected by his brother, now it's his turn to protect his brother. I heard from the doctor that Lin Chu's car accident was quite severe. Liu sees that his current condition is similar to back then and thinks the accident caused a relapse. Unexpectedly, Lin Chu also had amnesia before, and he grew up with Liu in the orphanage. The more Lin Chu thinks about it, the more incredible it seems. But now it's confirmed they are not related by blood. Suddenly, Lin Chu remembered the person Liu mentioned earlier. So he asked if his previous amnesia was also because of that person. Seeing that Liu didn't speak, Lin Chu guessed it must be related to that person. What kind of person would make Liu, now an acclaimed actor, feel threatened? Considering such a big potential danger, he hoped it wouldn't involve him. To avoid stressing Lin Chu, Liu planned to wait and see if he regained some memories before discussing it further with him. But Lin Chu, being extremely curious now, wouldn't give up easily. He prepared to find another excuse to ask more questions. So, he asked if the previous pretending not to know him and creating a false impression of discord was to avoid drawing that person's attention. Liu said yes. Lin Chu then asked if that person couldn't yet confirm who they were as adults. Liu thought that person could probably recognize him but wasn't sure about Lin Chu, because he looked quite different from when he was a child, and it was uncertain whether that person would continue to investigate. For years, Liu had been in the public eye, using himself as a target, yet that person hadn't made a move. Because the most dangerous place is the safest, Liu arranged for Lin Shu to stay within his reach but not too close. Liu felt somewhat guilty and asked if Lin Shu thought he was useless. I can't completely protect you right now and make sure you have no worries. Why did he start using the sympathy card, and why did it work on me? So, he asked Liu how he wanted him to cooperate. Since Liu is usually rude to everyone, he hoped that Lin Shu would just avoid him like everyone else. If he needed to come to the villa, Tony would inform him. Didn't expect it to be so troublesome. Well, big brother, you're the sponsor, so it's your call. Hearing himself called a sponsor, Liu was momentarily stunned. Lin Shu explained that it was Tony who said it. He said we are all supported by a sponsor, which is you. Liu's face turned red with embarrassment, but he was still curious about what else Tony had said. Lin Shu told him everything in detail. After hearing everything, Liu felt extremely embarrassed. We actually aren't. Seeing his expression, Lin Shu then realized that he hadn't come over tonight to team up for gaming. Unexpectedly, another one of Lin Shu's sponsors turned out to be a crazy, Yandere guy. Hearing Lin Shu thought he had come to sleep with him, Liu was stunned on the spot, not knowing what to say for a while. After snapping out of it, he told Lin Shu that this villa is a safe house with anti-tracking, and he came over especially because he had been worried about him recently. Now, Lin Shu was so embarrassed he could dig a 3-room flat with his toes. He really wished a thunderbolt would strike him dead. Seeing that Liu was planning to clear things up with Tony, Lin Shu quickly stopped him, saying there was no need to explain in person. Let's still go to the hospital first thing tomorrow morning to see the doctor, if possible. I want to clear up the past as soon as possible, okay? I must say, Lin Shu is really good at acting coy. Liu agreed to him right away. Rest early, brother. After Liu left, Lin Shu finally breathed a sigh of relief. He tossed and turned in bed all night, unable to sleep. It turns out the relationship between Liu and Lin Shu is like this. But there's still something unclear. It seems that Lin Shu has hidden something. Liu had photographed him meeting a mysterious person secretly, thinking he was seeing a sugar daddy, but given the current situation, Liu is Lin Shu's supporter. Logically, he shouldn't need to cling to others. Moreover, from Liu's reaction, he obviously didn't know about this. Lin Shu, although he has many issues, barely socializes. His phone's contact list is almost empty, and no records were found other than those of Liu and his agent. It's also unclear what his relationship was with the man that night. It feels like a ticking time bomb. At this point, we can only take one step at a time. In his sleep, he saw Lin Shu as a child being bullied, with the oppressor approaching him step by step with a strong sense of oppression. Lin Shu was immediately frightened and cried, only to see the person smiling. Don't be afraid. You're my collection, he said, then picked up a branding iron and jabbed it towards Lin Shu's leg. Struggling, Lin Shu suddenly woke up. It took a while for him to come to his senses. He lifted the blanket and saw that because this area was not obvious, he had never noticed it before. Unexpectedly, there really was a scar. It seems the dream was about Lin Shu's memory. That means the events in the dream really happened. The youth in the dream, his earring looks more and more familiar the more I think about it. Suddenly, Lin Shu remembered, the youth's earring is exactly the same as the one worn by the man he photographed that night. It turns out the doctor who was treating Lin Shu and this obsessive maniac are in cahoots, through the memory of that man and the earring of the youth in the dream being exactly the same. Lin Shu guessed they were the same person, but here he couldn't understand. Logically, Lin Shu should avoid that person as he grew up. Moreover, according to Liu's statement, the person in the dream should be that dangerous individual. Since he is so dangerous, why would Lin Shu still meet that guy secretly? I always feel something bad is going to happen. Thinking of drinking some water to calm down, he picked up the cup and it was empty. He had to go out to get water. Now, I can only take it one step at a time. At least Liu is still trustworthy. Just as I opened the door, I came face to face with Liu. Lin Shu was startled instantly. Seeing this, Liu hurriedly turned on the light and then went over to help him up, saying, "Brother, it was me. I heard your shout, so I came over to check. Are you okay? Did you fall somewhere?" Lin Shu told him it was nothing, just a nightmare. He got up for some water and got startled. Then, Liu slowly helped him back to bed, carefully lifted his leg to check. It seems to be a sprain. For tonight, we'll just use pain relief spray. We'll go to the hospital for further treatment tomorrow. This act instantly made Lin Shu's face turn red. He quickly withdrew his leg. No need, I can take care of it myself. Liu, seeing his injured leg, felt a deep sense of pity. Bro, you haven't been so dismissive of me before. Lin Shu said that he had lost his memory and didn't remember, plus the nightmare just now still scared him. Then he recounted the content of the dream. There was a young man holding a branding iron towards him. In such a terrifying environment, he was all alone. At this, Liu immediately retorted, "That's not true." Then he opened his clothes to reveal the scar on his shoulder. Lin Chu was at a loss for a moment. Liu told Lin Chu, "Originally, you weren't alone. I was also there. At that time, I did everything I could to push away. But the branding iron still left a mark on you. Bro, don't be afraid. I've said our fates are linked together. You've protected me. We are family, dependent on each other for life. I will never let you bear everything alone again. Everything will be okay." The next day, the two of them went to the hospital. After the examination, the doctor told him that all his indicators were normal. Memory disorder is a kind of psychopathology. He suggested using hypnotherapy. Lin Chu was afraid that he might reveal something and thus be exposed. Seeing his concern, the doctor assured him that the institution would prioritize patient privacy and would never pry into personal information. After some thought, Lin Chu agreed. After all, Liu was still waiting outside, and besides, hypnosis probably wasn't that mystical. At worst, he could just pretend to be hypnotized. Then, he lay down on the hospital bed. The doctor took out a pocket watch and swung it in front of him. Gradually, Lin Chu felt very sleepy. The next second, he fell asleep. At this moment, the doctor's eyes slightly squinted, then he looked towards the ceiling camera. On the other side of the camera, that man was leisurely watching everything unfold. After losing his memory, it seems he's become even more disobedient, my dear pet. To protect his brother Lin Chu, Liu kicked the cabinet door open in public. After being hypnotized, Lin Chu answered the doctor's questions without holding anything back. When asked about the injury on his leg, Lin Chu said he couldn't remember. Then the doctor asked if the person he trusted the most at the moment was Liu. At this point, the hypnotic machine was at its maximum setting. The crazed man watched the whole thing. Hearing Lin Chu's answer, the man finally believed that Lin Chu had truly lost his memory. He then poured red wine onto the screen. This was the most interesting prey in the world. It was as if he had become a blank sheet of paper that could be recolored. What a wonderful hunting feast! After the hypnosis session, the doctor told Liu that initially, Mr. Lin's condition was better than expected. A detailed report would be sent after a comprehensive assessment by experts. As for memory recovery, it would require ongoing effort. We recommend that Mr. Lin undergo related treatments regularly with the accompaniment of family members. The doctor then showed Liu the estimated costs, to which Liu immediately agreed. Lin Chu, standing beside, was stunned. What kind of treatment costs 10,000 yuan per session? These high-end institutions seem to specifically target wealthy people. Seeing Lin Chu in such a fragile state, Liu supported him the entire way, asking how he felt. Lin Chu told him he just felt a bit sleepy. I originally thought about pretending to be hypnotized by the doctor. Unexpectedly, I really fell asleep. But from their reactions, it seems nothing was exposed. And I didn't get more information about Lin Chu's past from his original body. The intimacy between these two was secretly photographed by Lin Chu's assistant behind them, and then sent to Liu's assistant to gossip. It seems that these two agents communicate closely in private. Before going back, Liu specifically asked Lin Chu's agent if they had checked the nearby entrances. The agent assured that they had checked everything and there were absolutely no paparazzi following them. Then he told his boss that he had just received a temporary notification from the crew asking Brother Lin to come this afternoon. Liu found it strange as they were supposed to resume work tomorrow. The assistant said it seems there's a change in Lin Chu's role, needing a private discussion. The one who caused the crew to take a break a few days ago was inserted by an investor. Seeing him replaced, the investor wanted to pull out, so the director immediately clung to a new backer. However, the person arranged by the new investor wanted Lin Chu's second lead role. Hearing Lin Chu was going to be bullied, Liu immediately pulled him over and drove him there himself. After arriving at Lin Chu's agency, Liu angrily slammed the contract on the table. It was clearly written in the contract that Lin Chu was the second lead. He would not accept any form of adjustment. Lin Chu was dumbfounded seeing him like this. He had said to keep a low profile just last night. The director was also intimidated by Liu's aura, stating that compensation could be made according to the contract's penalty clause. They thought Lin Chu had no backing, but it turns out Liu was standing up for him. They thought Liu wanted to sign him or there was some personal relationship between the two. Liu stated that Lin Chu doesn't lack penalty money, and he could even increase the investment to ensure his second lead role. They said so much, but the director still claimed there was nothing he could do. Because the breach of contract penalty from the new investor was astronomical, they really couldn't afford it. It looks like this new investor is deliberately targeting us. Now, no matter how we try to keep our distance, there's no way to protect brother. So Liu directly held Lin Chu's hand. There's no point in hiding anymore. From today onwards, try to stay by my side. Lin Chu's face instantly turned red with shyness upon hearing this. How is this different from publicly displaying affection? The director also started imagining things on the side. At this moment, Lin Chu hurriedly explained to the director. Seeing the director's gossipy look, Lin Chu hurriedly pulled Liu and ran outside, but accidentally tripped over a chair. At this moment, a handsome guy coming from the front caught him. Be careful, Mr. Lin. Facing Lin Chu's sudden fall, Liu couldn't handle it for even a second. Lin Chu accidentally tripped over a chair. At a critical moment, a handsome guy suddenly appeared and supported him. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was He Ming. Lin Chu quickly brushed off He Ming's hand from his body. He was the recently trending celebrity. It was strange to see him here. He Ming enthusiastically greeted him, stating that he was his fan. Seeing He Ming so naturally familiar, Lin Chu felt a bit awkward. Just as he was at a loss, Liu directly came over and pulled him away. Facing Li, the movie star, He Ming started with the usual pleasantries. Seeing He Ming's approach, Liu immediately guessed he was the new second lead. He Ming admitted it directly but still explained that he was arranged by the company. When Lin Chu was still Lin Chu, he was very familiar with He Ming. After all, he was one of the legends in the paparazzi world. Unlike the always concealed Lin Chu, He Ming never hid the fact that he had connections. Shinbua Ming never hides the fact that he has backing, and is even quite ostentatious. He himself is also very topical. And to be honest, his facial features are indeed very recognizable. So, under similar circumstances, he has always been ahead of Lin Chu. At this point, He Ming expressed his desire to collaborate with Lin Chu, but Lin Chu felt that there wasn't much overlap in their roles to speak of any collaboration. But He Ming didn't see it that way and immediately stated that he is second lead now, and the script must be changed accordingly. Lin Chu didn't know what to say for a moment. Although He Ming appeared courteous, gentle, and sincere, he was actually very troublesome. Li Yuqi wondered how he could be so confident about securing this role. To prove this, He Ming took out his phone and showed them the trending topics of the day. At that glance, both Li Yuqi and Lin Chu were stunned. Li Yuqi angrily questioned the director, as they were still in discussions, yet he had already breached the contract. The director claimed to be unaware as well, while He Ming approached Lin Chu with the attitude of a victor. Although such a conflict was not my intention, since my company has invested, we must maximize the benefits. After all, you can see that public opinion is on my side now. Lin Chu smiled slightly and then brushed his hand away. Mr. He, are you sure you want to compete with us in terms of public opinion? After saying this, he turned around and walked away. After getting into the car, Lin Chu looked at the trending topics on his phone and already thought of a solution. Liu blamed himself for not handling the situation well. Being able to bypass me silently and target my brother directly can only be that person. At this moment, Lin Chu went over, patted his shoulder, and comforted him that there are always more solutions than difficulties. While saying this, he gave him a wink. Liu blushed instantly when he saw it. Then he began to lean on Lin Chu's lap, looking aggrieved. Lin Chu saw that he often blamed himself, but this time it wasn't his fault. After all, this guy was never good at PR, otherwise he wouldn't always be targeted by paparazzi. Back when I was a paparazzo, I often slandered him for KPIs. I never imagined that I would end up on the same side as him. Now that this burden has fallen on me, I absolutely must not suffer unnecessary losses in terms of reputation. Then he dialed the number of Shinga Media. Seeing how optimistic Lin Chu's brother has become, Liu felt very relieved. Returning to the villa in the evening, Lin Chu looked at the messages on his phone. The situation is developing in the direction he hoped. Fans of both Lin Chu and He Ming have started arguing. Lin Chu, who orchestrated all this, happily ate his fruit. This was the effect he wanted. Then, he handed his phone to Liu. Don't worry, I've settled things with Xingu. They'll issue a statement. At least we won't be at a disadvantage in public opinion. And with this set of moves, even if paid trolls try to smear us, we can stabilize both fans and the public. My predecessor was a professional paparazzo. They think they can put me on the spot before you can react. Wishful thinking, bro. I can handle it with just one phone call. Liu was so engrossed in watching him that he snapped back to reality and immediately asked, Bro, how do you know the contact details of those entertainment reporters? Hearing this question, Lin Chu was momentarily stunned and quickly passed the buck to Tun. Liu mentioned that he had received calls from those reporters before but had always hung up. Lin Chu thought to himself that he had indeed been hung up on by him before. Li Yu looked at Lin Chu in front of him and felt that he had really changed from before. In the past, when he faced difficulties, he was always very negative and refused to interact with others, sometimes even ignoring himself. Seeing him now willing to step out of the shadows, I am very happy for him. Hearing him say this, Lin Chu also breathed a sigh of relief. He was worried that he was not clear on how to pretend to be Lin Chu, making him feel uncomfortable. It seems that in the future, he might slowly return to being himself and no longer need to always try to act like his brother. At this moment, Tony sent over the revised script from the production team for He Ming, and the two of them looked at the script together. Compared to before, Lin Chu's character in the script has changed. Previously, he and the character played by Li Yu were teammates, but in the new script, Lin Chu joins the antagonists, originally just a pure victim. Now, under the influence of drugs, he becomes the protagonist's adversary. This character is hard to handle, even formally trained actors often fail, and now Lin Chu, being an outsider and new to this, would be criticized if performed poorly, and even if performed okay, he might still be criticized as an up-and-coming actor. This is really too difficult. At this moment, Li Yu took his hand. I know you've been really troubled recently, your memory hasn't recovered, and the pressure on set is huge. But don't worry, I'm here, I'll teach you. My goodness, this puppy brother is really heartwarming, even though it was rehearsed in advance. But when it really comes to taking action against Li Yu, he still gets nervously inexplicable. After He Ming went back, he was harshly criticized. A man stepped on him. The phone also shattered on the ground. The man stepped forward and choked his neck. How did I teach you? You can restrain, but you are never allowed to touch him, not even a bit. Then he threw him away. He stepped on the hand that touched Lin Chu. He Ming is also very sensible. The man considered it his first offense, this time it was a minor punishment as a major warning. Seeing Li Yu's photo on the ground, he immediately got angry. He stomped it to pieces. On the set, Li Yu and Lin Chu were acting in a scene. According to their script roles, Lin Chu becomes very cold. He even makes a move against his brother Li Yu. After the scene was shot, the director urgently instructed the props team to rush the purchase of blood packs. Because there were too many NGs in today's scene, the gossip from others made Lin Chu instantly awkward. As soon as Li Yu stepped in, those people immediately stopped talking. The director also quickly spoke up for Lin Chu. Shaolin, if you perform well in this scene, it will easily stand out. Come on, the next scene is about being held captive and accidentally injuring Li Yu due to the influence of hallucinogens. You must portray that kind of dazed yet sharp state. To reduce his pressure, Li Yu quickly came over to comfort him. Don't be nervous, just act like we rehearsed last night. Seeing Li Yu speak to him like this in public, Lin Chu was about to die of embarrassment. It felt like he was doing it on purpose. Although Li Yu gave him an emergency lesson the entire night, he's still not a professional, and it was very reluctant. Last night, Li Yu was really hands-on, even teaching the details of eye expressions very well, personally demonstrating for Lin Chu. However, this made Lin Chu even more stressed. It was like asking a primary school student to learn a PhD course from Harvard University. Also, for some reason, every time they rehearsed the part where he had to stab Li Yu with a knife, Lin Chu felt very odd and inexplicably nervous. It was as if he had some kind of muscle memory, having experienced an even more realistic scenario. Could it be because he was influenced by the original owner's body? Noticing Lin Chu's abnormal state, Li Yu quickly approached to check on him, so that Li Yu wouldn't notice anything. Lin Chu quickly left under the pretext of fetching props and went to meet He Ming alone. He was caught on the spot by Li Yu. To avoid raising Li Yu's suspicions, Lin Chu quickly left under the excuse of fetching props, feeling inexplicably anxious all day. I felt inexplicably nervous all day, and just now I saw a message from Li Yu. Previously, to prevent paparazzi from accidentally capturing the screen, Lin Chu has always avoided any public association with Li Yu without any mutual remarks. Now Li Yu has changed his strategy, planning to become a public sponsor. Hiding it any longer would be futile. Moreover, he's been giving me puppy eyes every day. So Lin Chu decides to label him Li Dog. Just as she finished typing, she suddenly hears the conversation of the staff behind her. It turns out they were discussing rumors about her. But they mentioned He Ming visited the props department this morning, even though he isn't due on set until the day after tomorrow. Strange that he came today. So, Lin Chu went to the set and, indeed, found He Ming at the props department. If I remember correctly, you don't have scenes today. What are you doing here? Caught by Lin Chu, He Ming was somewhat surprised and said he came looking for her. Don't be nervous. In public, I am a law-abiding citizen. Besides, I've said before, I'm just doing this for the money. I have no personal animosity towards you. Today, I was asked to pass a message to you. He said that the game has officially started. Lin Chu, hearing the use of he in his words, immediately guessed that it was the man she met on the rainy night of the car accident. But what does it mean that the game has officially started? Weren't the previous targeted actions already serious enough? She then responded to Yiming, dealing with the bullying tactics in the entertainment industry. Just those forced to overwork, hiring someone to assault, being slandered by the financier. She herself had spoken up for newcomers, actors who were falsely accused, but as long as one has power, they can completely destroy a disobedient person. She directly asked them what kind of trick they wanted to play. Li Yu's company had arranged for security to be stationed at the venue, and there were so many people watching Yiming. Hearing this, he was stunned for a while, then with a smile, said, "Your personality is more direct than I expected. But I like it. Since you're being straightforward, I'll speak plainly too. Pawns don't need to know where they should go next. This is what he told me. Now, I'm giving these words to you. As for what happens next, you'll have to experience it yourself. I can't help you." Suddenly, Li Yu's voice came from behind. "What are you doing?" Seeing how fiercely Yu was, Yiming quickly hid behind Lin Chu, not expecting that the prop was actually real. Lin Chu accidentally injured Li Yu. As soon as Li Yu came to the props team, he saw Lin Chu and Yiming so close together. "What are you doing here, Yiming?" Yiming immediately hid behind Lin Chu, looking wronged. Suddenly, he got an idea and decided to play the victim. "Movie King Li, I know there's been a misunderstanding between us. You're mad at me, but I don't blame you." The crew members started to gossip upon seeing this. Lin Chu was speechless. 1 second Yiming was arguing with him, and the next, he started again with Li Yu. In this regard, Yiming was too good, looking like a total victim. Lin Chu quickly tried to explain to the others that it wasn't what it seemed, but it only made things worse. Yiming pressed his advantage. "It doesn't matter how cold you are to me in front of others, but Lin Gu has been with you for so long. We were just chatting. Please don't question me like this." The onlookers enjoyed the drama even more. Then Yiming came to find Lin Chu again. Li Yu couldn't stand it anymore. "Shut up, or you'll receive a lawyer's letter," and then he ordered the set to be cleared. The crew didn't dare to offend Yiming and politely told him they would notify him once the shooting schedule for the day after tomorrow was confirmed. Before leaving, Yiming told Lin Chu he was looking forward to his performance. Lin Chu immediately felt that the situation was definitely not simple. Li Yu came over and asked what Yiming had told him. Lin Chu didn't go into detail since there were too many people around. He said he would explain it later tonight. However, Yiming's words couldn't be ignored, so he told Li Yu to stay alert. He instructed Li Yu to have security keep an eye on the scene and be more vigilant if they noticed anyone who wasn't part of the crew. The camera setup was ready, and filming was about to start. Everything went smoothly. Because he was constantly worried that something might go wrong, he stayed highly focused, and as a result, his performance was unexpectedly smooth. The director was also very pleased with Lin Chu's performance. He then asked if the blood packs were prepared and said they were about to film the last scene of the day. Li Yu had already prepared the blood packs and was ready. His impressive physique almost made Lin Chu have a nosebleed. The director handed Lin Chu the prop knife and told him that in the next scene, he must move quickly. The knife was blunt and wouldn't puncture the protective layer behind the blood pack. At this point, filming began. Lin Chu, who had been kidnapped and tortured, was already a bit delirious. Li Yu came over, ready to rescue him. "I will apply for a release order to take you for treatment," Li Yu said. At that moment, Lin Chu took advantage of his unguardedness and drew a dagger to stab him. The speed was so fast that Li Yu didn't even react. Suddenly Lin Chu sensed something was wrong. "There's something wrong with this knife, quickly, call an ambulance." Meanwhile, Yiming watched the footage of himself switching the props. He had someone delete all traces without leaving any evidence. Everything was going according to plan. Lin Chu asked the doctor about Li Yu's condition. The doctor told him the stab wasn't deep and there were protective measures. The wound wasn't deep, there's no need for a blood transfusion for now, but he still needs to go to the hospital for a checkup soon. Just then, Li Yu tried to speak. He immediately started coughing, and the doctor told him not to try to talk as the exact extent of the damage was still uncertain. Safety first, Lin Chu also quickly told him to lie down quietly and not speak. So, Li Yu took out his phone and typed what he wanted to say. It's unexpected that even at such a time, he was still considering others. Lin Chu felt very guilty and apologized to him, but Li Yu didn't blame him at all and even comforted him. He even felt relieved that it wasn't him who was injured. Lin Chu could hardly imagine how he had no complaints at all. Could it be because he said earlier that Lin Chu also protected him when he was a child? Suddenly, I have a headache. It's Lin Chu from childhood again. Are these the original memories of this body? I see a boy approaching. Do you want to protect him? The boy disdains seeing him and Liu, orphans being able to have such warmth, decides to teach them a lesson, then forcefully steps on Liu's hand. Lin Chu shouts, "Don't!" The boy wonders, they aren't even blood related, why protect him so? Lin Chu sheds tears of grievance. Only Liu stays with me. The boy looks disdainful, sounds so moving, doesn't it? This pale and powerless reason, but do you really think so deep inside? If killing him would get you everything you want, what would you choose then? Why don't you dare to do it? Have you heard of puppet training? Start with practicing on a puppet. Once you practice enough, taking action won't give you a psychological burden anymore. We can start with simple exercises. It turns out Liu has always been used by Lin Chu and is still kept in the dark. The boy prepares puppet training for Lin Chu. Now I'm so close to you, but I can't feel your heartbeat speeding up. From the first cut, you already knew the puppet was a living person, right? But as long as the covering cloth was still there, you could deceive yourself. Actually, you realized a long time ago that weakness and kindness don't suit you. Those boring family games were just you deceiving yourself. You pretended to protect him because he was willing to stand in front of you. He didn't really mean much to you, but you needed to hold on to something. You thought I didn't notice, but compared to him getting hurt, you were clearly more afraid of getting hurt yourself. That simple guy is the easiest to be deceived by people like you, the weak, and stand in front of you. Every time I see him being fooled by you, I find it particularly amusing. In this sense, you are truly my unspoken accomplice. Why still unwilling to face the real self? Want to study at a top school? I know you've been trying to find books to read. You played this game with me to the fullest. I give you the chance to rise above others. I intentionally let that kid steal the key. The most interesting thing is to see a person gain hope and then fall into the abyss. At that time, Liu really considered Lin Chu, comforting him not to be afraid, and let him hide first while he went to open the door. When Liu opened the door, Lin Chu reached out to him from behind. Suddenly, a security guard appeared and disrupted everything. Liu stood in front to let him run first. At that moment, Lin Chu accidentally stepped on a trap. Then he fell down and suddenly woke up from the dream with wide eyes. Beside him, Liu asked if he had another nightmare. Lin Chu quickly apologized for disturbing him. Unexpectedly, he dreamed that Lin Chu was harming Liu. The dreams are getting more and more outrageous recently. It couldn't be true, could it? Liu patted his head. Brother, did you dream about that time again? Lin Chu wondered to himself if he lost his memory during that time when they were escaping. Liu told him that was when you accidentally fell into a trap and hurt your leg. I thought I couldn't escape, but someone helped me. At this moment, Lin Chu thought of what the doctor said, that the brain might be stimulated by similar situations and the original memories could be activated. The things in Lin Chu's dreams turned out to be true. It seems that Liu has been deceived by Lin Chu all along. I don't know if I should tell him about the things I dreamed of. At this time, Liu was also worried that Lin Chu had stayed here with him all night, which was very hard, and let him go back to rest. Lin Chu held his hand. You got hurt because of me, how could I leave you here alone? You've been so good to me, I will definitely treat you well. Liu was somewhat surprised. Bro, you've never said such things to me before. I'm very happy. I can't stand Liu's puppy dog eyes, always feel like my bottom line is in danger. I need to find an excuse to retreat and cool down for a while. So, I patted the quilt and asked him what he wanted for breakfast and went to get him something. Wondering what was so hard, thinking it was his phone that I had pressed on. Seeing Liu's face turn red, Lin Chu immediately realized something was off and quickly withdrew his hand. Liu also quickly pulled up the quilt and explained it was because he had been lying on top of him. Lin Chu didn't know what to say for a while. Just then, the phone rang. Finally a lifesaver came. Lin Chu quickly used answering the phone as an excuse to escape the awkward scene. At that moment, Liu also received a message. His subordinate told him that after the surveillance was deleted, someone else went there, and it wasn't He Ming. Why didn't he tell Lin Chu about this directly? For Liu, Lin Chu is very different now from before. He had never thought that one day he would be unable to take his eyes off him. He is so transparent and so tolerant of himself, easily soft-hearted, making one want to reach out and touch. Now it seems he has started to become greedy. After taking a call outside, Lin Chu finally calmed down a bit, almost forgetting about the psychological therapy session he had scheduled last night. While he was pondering, suddenly someone appeared next to him, covered his mouth, and a strong smell of medicine followed. Then he lost consciousness. He was awakened by a bucket of cold water and upon opening his eyes, he found himself bound, with a huge surveillance monitor beside him showing the footage from Liu's hospital room. Suddenly, someone came over and pinched his chin. Long time no see, Lin Chu was kidnapped by a crazy, possessive man. It turns out they were once together, observing the snake-shaped earrings on the man in front of him. Lin Chu thought he was dreaming again, but then he remembered the person in the hospital corridor and realized he had been kidnapped. The man smiled. I know you're worried about him, so I chose the clearest angle for you. You've forgotten our agreement after losing your memory, revolving around Liu every day, which is really annoying. It seems Lin Chu indeed has a connection with the man in front of him, who can even monitor the hospital. He wonders if Liu is in danger. Seeing Lin Chu sweating profusely, the man decided to let him relax and then tore off the tape from his mouth. Lin Chu panicked instantly, thinking he must stop whatever the man was going to do. Wait, I remember you. The man asked him, so you haven't lost your memory? Then why didn't you come to find me as per our agreement that night? Lin Chu said he did indeed lose his memory and had only seen him in his dreams. The man was curious about what he dreamt. Lin Chu told him about dreaming of the games in the manor and the two-headed snake. At that time, we were allies, right? In fact, it's still uncertain now. We can only pretend to cooperate, relying on the memories Lin Chu has from his dreams. This guy is very dangerous. The man pinched his chin. You don't remember what happened before the car accident? Lin Chu still wanted to extract information from him. I don't remember meeting you. What did we agree on back then? It seems that Lin Chu must have promised him something. However, the man did not answer his question. After your last discharge, you did not contact me again, but this does not affect the progress of the game because I have thought of a more interesting way to play. Then he took out Lin Chu's phone, placed it in front of him, and unlocked it. You said if he saw you here with me, what kind of expression would he show? At this moment, Lin Chu could only watch helplessly, unable to stop anything. At this point, Liu received a video call from Lin Chu. As soon as he opened it, he saw Lin Chu being kidnapped. Liu panicked and the man grabbed Lin Chu's chin, telling him to speak louder so he could hear more clearly, or else I would help you. Liu shouted out the man's name. Jiang Chen continued to torture Lin Chu. Driven by emotion, Liu stood up and released him. However, at this moment, Jiang Chen was enjoying this game. Liu clenched his teeth. You can't touch him now. He and I are no longer nobodies you can easily erase. If I don't see him within an hour, I promise you will regret it. Jiang Chen scorned this. He threw the phone away and then grabbed Lin Chu by the hair, daring to defy me. Thinking about his expression just now makes me find this game so interesting. When he finally realizes that you have actually betrayed him long ago, things will probably get even more interesting. Lin Chu struggles to break free from the ropes, even though he currently just wants to use me to provoke Liu, but who knows if he will go too far in a fit of rage. Just as I was about to say something, he stopped me. Now let me tell you how the game should continue. Seeing his brother in pajamas with bunny ears, Liu was mesmerized on the spot. To think that this doctor before me is the psychologist from that day. He's in league with Jiang Chen. Jiang Chen picks up a syringe. You've seen this kind of injection on set before, you must know its effects. I've seen your performance before, your absent-minded look, it has an irresistible charm. Compared to when you're sober, the you when you're out of control is simply delicious, making one want to crush you completely and taste you bit by bit. The thought that Liu has also witnessed this makes me want him to disappear immediately. Lin Chu states that Liu is now just like family to him. But what Jiang Chen wants is for Liu to be completely submissive to him and then to push him into the abyss. Saying that, he's about to inject him. Everything will be recorded. I will make him bow before me and never lift his head again. This guy is simply a lunatic.